And welcome to another episode of Forgotten Heroes and Bray. It's been massive, the last episode. Obviously, us talking a bit of shit together. We did get off topic a couple of times, but it was just nice to sit down and talk some shit with you.
Well, this is my favourite time of the week. We both know that. So, no, it was good. We went off topic plenty of times. We tried writing a little some notes to do, but no good.
They were no good, but we did mention that we got a big episode today. We got the Menzel boys on. We'll introduce them shortly, mate. We got to thank our sponsors.
Couldn't do the show without them, could we?
Beachworm Capital, great to have them on board. Obviously, still celebrating. Tyson Panagotto still looking like he's putting on kilos every day.
She's a pearl, absolutely blitzed them, didn't she?
She did. She is a pearl. She's back racing very soon as well, which is going to be exciting. We've got to thank Councilman Nathan Shanks as well.
Shanksy, big supporter of the show.
Big supporter, loves a frothy, and he's up for re-election, I reckon, very soon as well.
So if you're in the Barossa district, get around this man.
Gawler Council. Two separate councils. Two separate councils, but get around him on Gawler.
Close enough, yep.
But I reckon we might have to do a little bit of a promo just to get him some votes, Shanksy, because he's a legend.
I didn't think the show would get political, but we are. We will.
And we take sides on this show.
We do, absolutely. Yeah. This is a very biased show.
Yeah, you put up a good case, we'll sort the rest out. And beautiful. Doc Brewing Co, mate, as well.
What a drop there. What a
fantastic to get them on board. Beautiful beer, beautiful hats.
Yep.
You've gone the beanie tonight, supporting the Eagles.
With Mighty Eggs. You Eagles.
Jimmy Tompus.
Number one fan.
But we thank them for all their support as well, and great to have them on the podcast. Mate, let's, before we get into our guest, weekend, how'd you go, footy?
Yeah, not too bad. Got dropped by my dad again. So
you playing the C grade?
Playing the C's again, yeah.
Wow, you thought you were coming good.
As a half forward, I had 15 and 5 tackles. Would have thought that'd be enough in Division 5 amateur football to hold your spot, but it wasn't. So I went down to the C's and ventured down to St. Paul's, Old Scholars. Sun doesn't shine down that way. That's probably one of the worst facilities I've ever been to. And I genuinely kicked the dew off. 9:15 a.m.
Start.
Arrival.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But I had 40 and 1, so to prove the haters wrong.
Hopefully back up this week.
But they're hopefully back up. But we did play at the inclusion side. They were one of the worst fucking football teams I've ever played against in my life. At least I can tell my son, though, I did have 40.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that St. Paul's...
You've ticked it off.
Hoping that St. Paul's do go up the divisions. So when my son's playing in 20 years' time, St. Paul's won't be a Division 1 team. He goes, geez, Dad, you must have been a fucking crook old footballer. These guys are good. Doesn't matter what division they were, what grade you're playing, still at 40.
Make sure you screenshot that. Keep that on the phone. It'll be good to show him.
And now, mate, you want to talk about your day on Saturday?
I'd rather not talk about my day, but, I mean, we will.
We've only allocated 2 minutes to this segment, but
I thought I was pretty well prepared. A couple of Eagle boys were planning to make the trip up, and only Connor Ballenden ended up making the trip. And probably I think the rest of the boys thought, thank fuck, because he's come up to Angaston, the furthest ground that we play at in the Barossa. Yep. So a long way from the west side of Adelaide to Angaston. Warm up before we got into a kick, I thought, I had a bacon egg roll for breakfast. Thoughts. I'm going to shit my pants here, wearing white shorts, and recent incidences. I'm a bit nervous with that part of my body, and so I went in for a shit. Didn't kick a footy in the warm up, and
smart, very smart.
Thought that's all right. I don't need a kick. It's what I'm very good at. And 90 seconds into the game, we're talking to Dan Menzel later, but Dan loves a back 45 sort of lead to goal, and try to get on one of those. And as I turned to take off. Felt the hammy go. So 90 seconds into the game and couldn't believe it. So tried to battle around for a little bit longer, but was no good. Nice stuff.
Did you get carried off by the back of a ute this time or not?
Nah, it wasn't quite the Hilux. That was a big. That one was a real rip, but a bit of precaution this one. And I thought I've got my
hamstring awareness.
My thought process was I've got 2 parts to my game that at 140 kegs I can still bring. I've got power.
Generous.
Just. I thought I've got speed and I've got power for 5 or 6 meters, and I've got a left foot. I've done my left hammy.
I've seen a left foot.
I've done a left hammy. I had neither of those. Thought, fuck this, my day's over. I'm going to hit the showers. So I did that. It was an ugly day. The team lost by 110. We were down by 6 goals at that stage. Thought, I'm not helping us win this, so I'm just going to hit the showers. So, ugly day, Bray, but it was good. Always good to be out there amongst some fans of the potty as well.
Big fans.
Big shout out to Albatronics, the runner for Anguston, Josh Young, big fan of the podcast, the only man to sweat in Anguston in winter, which is an incredible feat. If you've been to Anguston, it's the coldest place on earth, so it doesn't want to.
I remember playing out at Salisbury. I was getting heckled by a few fans of the podcast, and one guy was saying, "Nida has never delivered my jumper that I ordered from Cotton." This guy followed me around in the B grade. He goes, "Tell your fucking mate Nida, give me my fucking jumper. That's all I wanted."
Yeah, it's a great call.
I'm going on the hop here.
Thank you for the donation. It's a massive. It's probably true. I have had.
It has helped us run the show.
It has funded the show. So thanks for all your effort and support. I know someone's still waiting on a T-shirt, which came out 2.5 years ago as well. So thanks to everyone for your support of the show. But Bray, that's enough about us. Let's get into our guest. Troy and Daniel Menzel, 2 first-round draft picks. Daniel playing 80 games for Geelong and Sydney. Troy playing 44 games for Carlton and then the Crows as well.
Should have been plenty more.
Yeah, I got there. I was trying to think of the teams in the end. I should know that. But boys, welcome to the podcast.
No, thanks, mate. Good to be part of a really professional production.
Well, someone's got to do it.
After waffling on for 9.5 minutes, it's good to be on here and actually talking to you guys.
Well, it's a record. It's longer than Tump.
Well, Tump was 7.5, wasn't he?
Tump was 7.5, so it was good to get you boys in. But we didn't have sponsors with Tump, so that's probably
self-funded. That was that show. Self-funded.
Yeah, it was.
Well, that guy with the jumper. That guy's with the jumper.
Yeah, he's helped us out. Still don't know who you're talking about with that either. So
he's winking at me. The guy, he knows who you are.
But lads, obviously great to have you on. Obviously a big part of Cotton Media as well, and we've sort of been building up to this, Bray, haven't we, with the Forgotten Heroes? And people forget just how good these two are. Obviously, Dan at the moment is, I think, 12 goals in front of the Ken Farmer in the Sandful.
He's been told to put his feet up. He's that far in front.
Yeah, one hand on the trophy.
He's got it.
Troy, obviously, massive in the grand final last year. Unfortunately, ACL recently, which is a bit of a funny one. Not funny in a humorous sense.
You're
funny
a
in how it's happened. He's actually had no ACL for a while, but anyway, we'll talk about that later in the show. But massive out for the Eagles. Boys, talk to us about footy this year. Dan, obviously finding the middle of the goals a bit more than you did last year. You're probably finding the outside of it a little bit more in your first year at the Eagles last year.
Yeah, look, it's been a good little stint for us at the Eagles. Obviously, first year in and win a flag was all we could have asked for. So it's been a good couple of years for me in particular. Been able to play a lot of footy. Yeah, I probably didn't kick that straight at the start of last year. Probably rectified it by the end of last season. And then
what was the exact total? You'd know.
44 something. I'm not sure how many points, Nina, but you should be across this. But no, it's not. It's actually it is nice. It's frustrating as a forward when you're not hitting the scoreboard and you're kicking too many points. So it's nice to actually level that up and be kicking a bit better this year.
And Troy, obviously, we thought in 2020 at Central Districts the fairy tale was going to start. You and your brother play footy together for a full year of footy together for the first year. It lasted one game in 2020, but amazing to jump across and get the ultimate success with your brother. And obviously disappointing to be out, but going to be back bigger and better next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Daniel said, we were pretty lucky to come across and have some success pretty early. And yeah, it's been a very enjoyable couple of years. Personally, probably haven't been able to get on the park much over the last 18 months, but yeah, looking forward to, I guess, 2023 for me, and hopefully the boys can put in a good end of the year and good start of next year and come back for finals next year.
Because I heard a bit of a rumour what the Eagle boys would call him behind his back a little bit. There's a little nickname.
For Troy?
Yeah, the tampon. In for one, out for three.
Yeah, well, mate, usually
that's what the boys are doing.
I hope it's not Tump given that
I'm not revealing my sources there. But
usually blokes play with 2 ACLs, but some of us run around with one. But that's all right.
Well, let's talk about that because it is an interesting one. You actually haven't played with an ACL for a while. We're not sure exactly how long, but you've been playing footy, and if people watch the way you move, they'd be thinking, how the fuck does that happen? But you've been playing for footy without an ACL for a while.
Yeah, it is a strange one. Had an incident early in the year against Norwood where it was a little bit sore, so I got a scan and my knee felt really good, and the doc came back and he said, yeah, you've got a torn ACL, which I couldn't really believe, because my knee actually felt really, really good and it felt strong. And speaking to him and speaking to a couple of physios and whatnot, they came to the conclusion that I could have been playing with it torn for the last 5 years. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. And then, a couple of weeks ago, I absolutely just tore it to shreds. So I had to get it done.
I reckon you get onto the phone to the AFL Players Association. I reckon Jay Tompkins, I reckon there's a claim coming there.
He's not a bad shout as well. But no, that's it's a weird one, Bray. I don't know how you'd go playing without an ACL.
I did lose mine last year.
Yeah. There's a few ACLs at this table.
few.
Obviously, Dan, your ACL is very well documented. Ability to get back from them, and so you're probably giving your brother a fair bit of advice at the moment.
Yeah, you can jump online and sign up for the ACL plan on the website.
I'll still have to pay for it. Don't worry.
That's how we keep the business going. But no, you're right. It's I think he is the first player in AFL or SANFL to have actually played without an ACL. It's never really been done before because it almost can't be done at that level. So it's a pretty cool one to tick off, and would have been good to get through the whole year with it. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But it's something that it'll probably be a case study, to be honest, in 5 or 10 years' time amongst the medical field. So they'll have a look at whether it can work and go from there.
Well, hopefully this blows up on TikTok. We'll cut that one out and
there's
get
other
that
bloke,
on TikTok.
old Zlatlan Ibrahimovic, wants his body donated to science after.
Zlatlan
And we got
or
Troy.
Zlatan?
Yeah,
Zlatlan.
Hey, you've tried.
Are we editing that one out? Thanks. This is the one take.
One take.
You've tried.
And Troy Mansell.
Similar
I tell you
physiques.
what.
Similar physiques.
Very similar.
In Zlatan.
Troy, I remember a moment with Troy in 2020 when he got cleaned up at Sturt. He got dunked and shoulder popped and he was fucked. And I remember driving him home and he goes,
warning there.
Yeah, and he goes, I actually have had a pretty good injury. Like I've been pretty injury free a lot of my playing career. Like I've been fine. And I think since he's played 10 games of footy since that moment.
I could count them on my fingers.
You don't pound it. You never pound it. You always get ahead of yourself when it comes back.
Absolutely.
The Matt Knight curse.
Yeah, actual. Drove him around and drove him around. A few petrol tickets with these boys.
Hey, you got a flag out of it.
We'll touch on that later as well, Bray. I'm looking forward to getting into that. But
and you touched on it many of our previous episodes too.
I have, and I'm looking forward to bringing it up again. Yep. But I want to talk about, Dan, obviously going into the AFL. And when did you know for you that you were going to get picked up and be playing AFL footy?
I probably knew in my state year, my under 18 year in year 12, when I played the state championship, I guess, and then you have different clubs talk to you. I had 15 clubs, I think it was, talk to me. So I knew at that stage that a lot of them said, we'll pick up at some pick. We don't know where, but you'll go. So probably had 2 to 3 months to, I guess, not really plan, but get your head around it. That's going to happen. And yeah, pretty exciting in year 12 to go through that whole experience and get ready to play AFL footy.
Yeah, and then you find out you're going to Geelong, which was a powerhouse club in that stage of their existence, obviously still are today. What was the feeling then when you're walking in the doors with blokes like Gary Ablett, Matty Scarlett?
Few small names there.
Cam Mooney,
Jimmy Bartell.
Some serious players. What was going through your head as an 18-year-old?
Yeah, incredible. You walk in and they're all standing there, and yeah, it's you pinch yourself. I remember one of the first people I talked to was Paul Chapman, and his voice does not sound like what he looks like as a person. I'll tell you that much. He's got a squeaky voice.
He looks like an angry man.
He does, and he's got a squeaky voice, so you wouldn't pick it. So I remember that was one of my first conversations, and that actually hit me, and I was like, I did not expect that voice to come out of you. So that was one of my earliest memories, to be honest. But no, it's you walk around and yeah, you pinch yourself because you're like, there is such good players here. They've just won the flag. And yeah, you're in a pretty fortunate spot. I could have gone to the worst team and had guys that just didn't have that experience and guys that you wouldn't learn as much off. So I was very lucky.
And what was in going to take back to your draft? What was the weirdest question a recruiter asked you? Because you hear on the media, you hear some absolute doozies. Was there any real just like fucked up one? Just something to throw you off, like if your mum and dad were both dying and you had to pull one of them out. I've heard there's been something like that.
It's heavy.
There's been something like that, trust me.
Yeah, no, there has. I could even throw
think the
Detroit
AFLPA
here
games-
potentially because I don't think I got any real curveballs, but
Yeah.
I have heard about a few, and I'm trying to think of actually what they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get one, but one of the boys, SA boys I was with, he got. They asked him to call an imaginary horse race while he was in the room. So they said,
That is
so
bizarre.
call us the last 200 meters of a horse race just on the spot. So that would have been a pretty weird one to get.
Yeah, I think I was chatting to Ben Kennedy one time, and I think he was getting told to count back from 1,000 in increments of 7 or something like that. And
He can't count to 100.
He can't count.
Anyway.
He barely spilled his name out for the application. But yeah, I think they hammer through your Facebook and stuff like that, and they question everything.
Yeah, they do, absolutely. They look through every part of your social media. It's one thing they tell you pretty early on to sort of tidy that
Cover your
stuff
tracks up, yeah.
Yeah, I've
I
been
reckon
tidying
you'd be in a bit of
you'd
trouble,
be-
Nida,
yeah,
if you got the opportunity.
It's
If
the
it
only
does
thing
come,
holding you back, I reckon.
Thank God for Facebook memories because
Yes.
I have been tidying up my social media for years. Few bad comments about the North Melbourne Footy Club in 2011, 2012.
You're close to getting a game for him as well, I reckon.
Yeah.
if that
We'll see how
string
we
didn't go, then maybe.
Well, they got no coach and 4 players out with COVID
I've
this
seen that
week, so
before.
it might be sniff. But I want to know as well, like that period of your life. What was school like? Because it's both very well documented. You've done pretty well with the ladies over your journeys. Dan's obviously got a beautiful partner, Ashley. Now we'll talk about Ash later, Bray. And,
Are we doing 2 hours today? Or
we'll keep it short, but how
love
was
my
it
wife, by
around? How was it around the schoolyard? Because you both knew you were going early. How was the schoolyard through that period? Did you go all right?
did you do any work as well?
I think we actually both had partners all up in our year 12 and draft year and getting drafted. So we kept it in check pretty well, I think.
And those partners didn't make the cut. They're no longer
No,
with us anymore,
no,
are
they
No,
both
you
did.
quickly you live different lifestyles. I think is what it is. But, look, you're young at that stage of your life. You probably don't need to be locked down. You learn things pretty quickly, I reckon, at that age. But no, I reckon the memory for me is we went to King's Baptist. It's not a known footy school. We were
Never
always
known anybody even go there.
correct.
And I've lived that level my whole life.
So
For the viewers, where is it?
yeah, King's Baptist is Golden Grove. Or,
And for Bray.
Yeah,
and for Bray,
For
actually.
people who might know, it's Guy Sebastian went to King's Baptist.
Actual,
Yeah.
Guy Sebastian did. There's a couple others that have
Reece
come through.
Maston, was he Kim Baptist?
He was
He was
Eric.
Golden Grove.
He was
that
Golden
Eric?
Grove.
They're trying to claim him now anyway.
But yeah, so it's in Golden Grove, and so we weren't even in Div 1 or Div 2. We didn't even have an open footy team, so we pushed really hard to get one. We got one eventually in, I think, my year 11 year, and then year 12 year. Troy actually played as year 9 in that, which is really cool. And so yeah, you play
Must be an
play school footy, play school footy during the week. So I'm playing state footy one weekend, sample for reserves the next, and then school footy during the week. And they're telling you you're not playing school footy. Like, you don't want to get injured, and you're like,
Because I thought it was a fake address.
yeah, well, they didn't think the school was real. You're right, but you're going, yeah, I won't play, and of course you're going to play. So
course.
you're playing with your mates, and
Best
that's
footy.
what I remember. It's some of your best moments that you remember of playing footy with your mates. And yeah, you play at school, and no one has any idea if you're any good. No one knew about anyone who'd come out of there that played AFL. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, I remember we lined up against a couple of teams. I might have kicked 10 one game.
It's on the wall at home.
But no, it is to play with your best mates. Like I probably didn't get to play with most of my best mates, and to actually do that in school footy, and I got to play with Troy then, and hadn't played with him for another. It took another 10 years to play together. So it's a really cool experience, which I think is real relatable to a lot of people out there, whether you played AFL or whether you're shit kicking around for Gawler 2s or 2s out there in the Brossel League.
On the dog track.
Yeah, on the
Dan
dog track.
doesn't like the
Incredible.
dog track.
Doesn't he?
Doesn't like the
Incredible.
greyhound track
Can't believe
around
it.
the oval.
Can't believe it.
There'll be a few
I
more
mean,
years and you'll be there. So
I'll be honest, I've done 4 ACLs. I don't need to go out there and play, and if I can get knocked over the boundary line and hit my head on the fence because there's a dog track around the oval.
It's never happened, but anyway,
it'll be a first. Anyway.
Someone's died out there before, I'm sure.
the dogs jump the fence. That's the best
Actually,
thing.
I think I did ask that question. Do the greyhounds actually run whilst you're playing?
That'd be brilliant.
That actually
That
would be
would actually
incredible
be
viewing.
For a fundraiser, I'm sure.
Nah,
they
it
would.
has,
It'd be the biggest turnout you get.
You're not
on
allowed
it.
to. You're not allowed to because the fence electrifies. So you actually you're not.
I reckon if you call locals might enjoy that. I reckon.
I know a couple of times they've played like cricket games and that when you've had to sit down on the oval.
Oh,
No one
right.
can be within like 20 metres. Like they've allowed it on special occasions only. But great oval, nonetheless. Go have a couple of goals from Matt Knight's pocket. But Troy, you went to Carlton in a really interesting time where Brett Ratton was actually probably stiff to get the sack. He was doing a good job. We see what he's doing now with St Kilda, and they appoint Mick Malthouse on a big contract when you roll in the door. How was Mick?
Yeah, well, first, it was actually, Rat's one was a weird one because they were actually a kick away from making a prelim.
Correct.
And then he got the sack, so it was actually incredible. Mick, for me, so you ask a lot of people about Mick and they have different opinions, and a lot of people have negative opinions of Mick, but I actually really, really like Mick. I mean, I think the fact that he liked me a lot helped that.
Well, he was picking you.
Yeah. But I actually thought like his football knowledge and
And
the way
his war stories as well.
yeah, I mean, there's some weird ones there, but his football knowledge and the way he saw the game was incredible. But Daniel is right. We had a couple of weeks where we weren't going so well, and he'd bring us in on a day off or something like, oh, fuck, what's this about? We got another meeting or something like that. And he'd put you in a theatre and you're just sitting there and he's like, all right, we're watching Braveheart or watching it for 3 hours and then we're going home. So he'd bring you in just to watch a war movie to get the boys up and about. All right, go and enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. So he had some weird things like that he did. But I really liked Mick. I got along with him really well.
What's the weirdest thing that you've seen a coach do? You've obviously played at Carlton and the Crows. You got Mark Rasciuto's Guernsey at the Crows. You the next big thing, and
Yeah, did that
you
justice.
played 4 games. But what's the weirdest thing you've seen a coach do?
Jeez, I don't know.
Or say. They don't listen to this, by the way.
We had. I don't know about the weirdest
don't know about that.
weirdest thing I've heard say, but the weirdest coach I've had is probably question one. Dean Laidley. He was our midfield coach at
That's
Carlton.
going to take us into a completely different direction.
He was our midfield coach at Carlton, and
sex ed now.
he would just come out with some absolutely outrageous things. And
junkyard dog.
I think he actually ended Nick Graham's career in one meeting. The way he just tore him to absolute shreds. And yeah, he was just a different cat.
I think Nick Graham hasn't said many nice words about Carlton since leaving. I think he's
No,
been very
I
vocal
don't
of
think
his
he's
way
had
out.
any good words about him.
No.
He still supports him quite strongly though. So
Dan, weirdest thing you've seen a coach do?
No, I can't think of it off the top of my head. There's definitely been things in there.
Because you had Bomber Thompson.
I did have Bomber Thompson. Bomber was... I had
Talking
Bomber...
about Bomber and Dean Laidley.
Yeah, actually. I had Bomber for 1 year, and he was well and truly checked out for that year.
Yep.
I don't think Bomber knew where he was that year. So that was an interesting year, but he'd just come off some unbelievable success.
Of course.
So yeah, he'd be the strangest coach I've had without doubt.
Yep.
But I can't think of an isolated incident at the moment. I'll have a think over the next hour and a half that we continue to talk in this podcast for, and I'll see if I can come back to you.
It might go for a while. I want to go now, teammates, and Tom has given us some great insight on teammates. Riley Knight's given us some great insight on teammates. Cozzy given us some great insight on people he's played with overseas.
We'd never heard of them either.
We,
we went to Google them after we
Yeah.
threw some names out.
no idea. Troy, I'm going to ask you first. Who is the biggest flog that you've played with?
this one's actually pretty easy for me. Robert Warnock.
Robbie Warnock.
Big Robert Warnock.
Big Robbie.
Yep. Big
Was
Robbie
he at
Warnock.
Freo for a bit as well? Or just Carlton? Just Carlton? No, I think Kevin Bradley. Kevin Bradley.
And no, he had a brother who he was at Gold Coast. We might have been at Freo
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Big Robbie.
Big Robbie Warnock.
Big floggy.
Look, he was a bloke who,
Warnock.
if you're an established player or one of the big guys, he loved you. He absolutely loved you. But for anyone sort of up and coming or on that sort of fringe, you were playing good footy, he would just treat you like absolute shit. So,
So he's a name guy. He's a name guy.
yeah, he was
Name
just
guy.
one of those blokes, and every time he just spoke, you just thought you were a bit of a flog. So that's a pretty. He stands out for me.
He sounds like us on this
He does
podcast.
feel like
Big name will talk to you. No name, fuck off.
just about the AFL experience. Us.
Yeah, exactly. Daniel, biggest flog that you played with? Just to give you credit, we'll go back. Tom had Cam Pedersen,
Cam Pedersen, yep.
Sam Blease, He actually named
He's
two.
rolled out a few.
Sam
He's named
Blees.
out.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
named
He
two.
did want us to delete them.
Jesus.
That part there, but we haven't deleted them.
Yeah, I can't remember the others, but
I play
those two
with
stand out.
Sam Blees. That's I mean,
you disagree?
yeah, he's not. I don't think he's a flog. No, I think he's
he was
he's
strong.
an easy target, is what I'd say.
He was strong on the Pedersen one though.
He was real strong on
on
Pedersen.
the-
I can
on the
vouch
squid-
for the
on the
Pedersen one.
squid
I've
Pedersen
heard,
one,
I've
I
heard
was-
very much about
Oh.
that from people who played with him at North.
Yeah, I was at that game when he did back out of the contest, Port versus Melbourne. Like, it was Tom's first game, and Pedo goes back with the fly, then lets the ball bounce in the middle between him, like between him and this player, and then that was Mark Neild, I think, absolutely teed him off on that as well. I think referred to him as a squid. I do think that.
Who's the biggest flog you played with?
Interesting. The way to think about this is there's a couple I could say.
There's one really want him to say, but I don't.
Nah, there's a couple.
I'll say it anyway.
Nah,
He's not playing in the Port teams.
there's a
at the
couple I
moment.
could
Potentially.
say, but I actually won't because there has been reasons behind some of their behaviour, whether it be mental health or drugs or other things. So I won't actually say them. But one I'm going to say, I wouldn't say this guy's a flog. I'd say maybe the most unusual person I've played with. And that would be Callum Sinclair at Sydney. So to give you an example, he actually does a podcast, so you might be listening. To give you an example, he would be a great person to have on the podcast. You would love it.
So don't bag him too much now.
Yeah.
But
Pumping him up, they're going to start with the trade.
But no, I'll give you an example because if you're a young guy and you get to the club and you're in the same room as this guy, you do not know how to handle him. And so we had at Sydney, the rooms were quite old, the change rooms were. And so what actually happened was you had to get in a lift to go to level 2 and level 3. And level 2 had physio room, the gym, meeting room. Level 3 was all the coaches' offices, everything else. So you had to get in the lift. And so every second time you get in the lift, Sinks would be in there and you walk in and there's a mirror on one side of the lift. And so you're all just standing there and, everyone's sort of awkward in the lift and it's sort of just quiet. He would stand in the mirror and look at himself and go, "What the fuck are you looking at? What are you looking at?" And everyone would just stand there and be like, "What is wrong with this guy?" What is wrong with him? And would do it without fail, didn't matter who was in there. And so I just remember thinking, oh my God, one of the funniest blokes, but seriously a screw loose. And that was him. So again, a ripping guy, I would say not a flog, but just unusual is the word I would
Great
use.
reenactment of that story.
If that doesn't go viral on this podcast, we might as well throw
Surely
in
a
the towel.
TikTok. Yeah, we got that one.
Hey, I want to ask you. So there's one from Sydney. Actually, you've given me one from Carlton. You've given me one from Sydney. Give me one from Geelong and one from Adelaide.
Say Ned McHenry.
He wasn't there. He wasn't there when I was
You
there.
don't like Ned.
I don't like Ned.
One from Adelaide. Geez, I wasn't there for long enough.
I could name one.
Yeah, I can. There's a couple there which I didn't really get along with and bumped heads with a fair bit. One maybe an ex-skipper. But yeah, I'll leave that there.
Yeah.
It'll be in the show notes.
He's actually on the show next week. No, you don't. No, you don't. We're going to leave that there.
Yeah, we'll leave that there.
We both give
Geelong.
him one.
Do you want to leave the initials?
First name
Totally.
might have the same starting letter as my name.
Totally
I'm sure you can work it out from
Totally
there.
Workwear, great sponsor of the show.
Yep.
Now let's
Didn't
moving on.
realise we had him on board, but welcome.
We
Totally
do now.
We do now.
Dan, all right, you talked about Bomber, Chris Scott, Johnny Longmire. What'd you think of both? What were they like as coaches?
Different coaches. Scotty's very tactical, analytical. That side of the game he is good at. And so he would be able to put that team, which has always been a strong list, in a really good position every year. The challenge has always been for him and for that team is when they get to the MCG, they play a zone and actually defending at the MCG and being able to adjust to that and playing against good teams. Because the fact of it is you play at GMHBA 8 times a year, 9 times, 10 times I think it is now, and you play 5 of the bottom teams each year there. That's almost guaranteed 5 wins. unless their list is no good. So they're always going to be competitive. It's just they haven't got it done yet in the finals. They actually look like this year they potentially have the team to win it because they have different types of players. Stengel coming in has been massive. Obviously, Jeremy Cameron as well. Prez has been huge for them. But also, it took them a long time to realise that, and probably took Scotty a long time to realise you can't just rely on Joel Selwood and Patrick Dangerfield to get it done. Every other team has started to exploit that. And it's shown. So it'll be interesting to see if they can match it with the likes of Melbourne at the MCG this year. In terms of, I only have 1 year with Horse with John Longmire at Sydney. And
seems like an interesting cat, Horse.
Yeah, Horse is. He's a very defensive-minded coach. And so, I mean, good and bad, I guess. But it just, everything was all about defense. I remember having chats with Buddy Franklin about this, and he said, mate, he played full forward? I don't think anyone realises that he played full forward, and he's the most defensive-minded coach in the history of the game. And I said, it actually makes no sense whatsoever. I think that myself. I'm like, I'm not a defensive footballer and player. If I go into coaching and I tell players they're going to have 10 tackles a game and got to lay more pressure, I'll be like, what am I doing? Seriously. Like, I never did that myself.
Stats, you had 10 in your career.
I've always found that incredible, to be honest. But
non-tackling forward, we like it.
So that I did find a little bit strange, that there wasn't much of a forward or offensive mindset.
Did that lead to the not the contract extension? Or?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, the contract. All players that have played AFL know that there's different clauses and different things that happen, I guess, behind the scenes. Yep. And I had a 10-game clause in my contract that if I played 10 games, it'd trigger a second year. I played 7. I got dropped for 3 or 4 of the last 6 or 7 games.
So, do you reckon you were stiff to get dropped in those ones?
If we were trying to win, then I probably would have been playing. But at the same time, I actually completely understand what they've done since and at the time, because they've got a great young list. Like, they actually...
Errol Goulden,
he's a gun. But even not just that, Callum Mills is only 24. Isaac Heaney's the same. Tom Papley.
Chad Warner.
Chad Warner's come through.
Chad Warner. He's flying. Got wheels, doesn't he?
Ollie Florin, Will Hayward. There's so many good young players at Sydney that it made sense at that time. As I was explained, after I played 1 game of footy for that footy club, I come off a groin injury, missed the first half of the season. We were 3-6, 3-7.
Yep.
I played my first game, played against Geelong at the Cattery. They beat us, and Horse said, we're going to play the kids the rest of the year. And so at the time, I was extremely pissed off because I was like, why have I come here? Like, what's the point? You've sold me on top 4.
You and Grubby Gray?
Yep. So, well, he was the year after me.
Yep.
But, played 1 game and was told they're probably going to go in a different direction and play the kids. And so I didn't understand at the time. I do now, but it's extremely frustrating because you're like, what? I came here, I could have gone elsewhere.
Where was elsewhere? For listeners at home.
Yeah, no,
I'm more interested too.
Interesting. I'll see how far I want to go with this. But when I was at Geelong, and again, it's cat and mouse. It's playing and trying to keep the ball in your court, which Geelong did do, and Scotty tried to do a lot. And they'd say to the media and the public, we'll see what we do when it comes to contract negotiations. They were never going to offer me more than 1 year.
Yep.
I mean, we see contracts nowadays that are 10 years worth however much money they are. Like, literally 1 or 2 years, it's not that big a deal.
Yep.
I was never going to get more than 1 year, so we were looking at other options potentially. St Kilda offered me 3 years on about 3 times the amount of money I was on. And at the time, I was like, we'll have a look at this come the end of the season. And then they got a new list manager come in. They ended up getting other players on board. And so that didn't eventuate.
Yep.
So then I looked at other options. Geelong then said to me at the end of the year, we're probably going to delist you. Oof. This is after telling St Kilda that they were definitely keeping me and I wasn't going there. So that happens with every player, to be honest.
Of course,
That's not just me. That happens with all players in the AFL. And so... had Sydney, had some interest from Gold Coast at the time, potentially the Bulldogs, and then was looking at the Adelaide clubs, but that wasn't probably going to be as great a possibility. Yep. So Sydney was the obvious one in the end. They were the one that could contend at the time. So I was in America at the time, ended up coming back, flying back for a medical, and then flew back to America about 4 days later. So that was quite the experience.
Must be a tough life.
Yeah.
Living the
How the
dream.
other half live,
Exactly right, and it's a great story and good, definitely good over a couple of beers of that period of time.
But we'll have
But
to do an uncut version.
actual, yeah, we
For
might
subscribers, gold subscribers.
we might have to.
Big
for
Brother uncut sort of version.
Well, because it's
Not a
talk to us
shell.
at the time where you were when you were negotiating and when St Kilda put the offer on the table. You're leading the Coleman. What your first 5 games of that year? You unbelievable, weren't you? You'll know your stats better than me.
Yeah, this is only 2019, so this wasn't that long ago when
No.
you think about it. It was Buddy Franklin and potentially Josh Kennedy in front of me in the goal kicking. I was coming third after round 5, I think it was, and I kicked 16 goals in the first 3 rounds, and finally had a pre-season. Finally felt good. I remember Simon Lloyd came up to me, who was the full boss there, our GM of footy. And the reason he did is because Matthew Lloyd put out his team of the year at that stage, All-Australian, rolling out All-Australian.
Sunday Footy Show?
Back then, I reckon it was just in the newspaper maybe, but it might have been Sunday Footy Show. And
he cranks it now.
And obviously, Simon and Matthew are brothers. So Simon came up to me and he said, "Yeah, you're in his All-Australian team at the moment." And I was like, "That's pretty cool." And that was that. And so we had, because of my body and all my injuries, we had decided that I was going to miss round 7, I think it was. And I'd had issues with my groins ongoing because of my ACLs. I didn't realize at the time, but it had a fair impact on my groins, my stability. I had an instability in my joint. So what we were doing is I was putting cortisone injections in my groins every 6 to 7 weeks. And so what that meant was you couldn't really move properly for a couple of days and couldn't play for a week. So we decided come round 7, week off, put the injection in. So did that. It felt like it didn't work like it had in the past. It felt like it went into a different spot. It felt like the injection was in a different area as such. So I spoke with my doctor and my physio, and we sort of decided, and I said to him, should we try it again? It didn't work. And they said, we spoke to a few people. There shouldn't be any issues with this. So we put more cortisone in there. And within 2 days, I actually couldn't get out of bed.
Fuck.
And so as a result of 1 week...
Stephen Dank doesn't have a job there anymore.
As a result of a 1 week cortisone, I missed 10 weeks. And then 6 weeks after that was out of Geelong. So it's pretty incredible.
Not even your knee. Not even your knee in the last one.
Not even my knee. And they actually didn't offer me a contract at the end of that year. So it went from being in the All-Australian squad after round 6 to not playing for 10 weeks. I came back for the last 6 rounds of the year. But as anyone knows, like when you've missed 10 weeks, my fitness was nowhere. I played horrendously the last 6 rounds of the year. Just limped through. And as a result, went from potentially having a good deal at a few different clubs to ended up going to Sydney for a year.
It's a great story.
It's a great story.
And what we haven't touched on in this podcast, and we like to keep it light and jovial and that on here, but is the tough times that you've gone through, because people forget Dan Menzel, 2011, the back end of that season, 19-year-old. You've kicked 5 in round 23, I think, after coming back in to the team, playing finals and doing your first ACL, which would go on to be 4 ACLs and a lot of battle and a lot of hardship for many years. Talk to us about when you did burst onto the scene and that period. Obviously, 2011, Geelong go on to win a flag. Talk to us about that period and the resilience to keep coming back and be... I guess there's a little bit of last year in this, finally getting at premiership success after so much setback and heartache over a 10-year period. Yeah,
it's one that at the time it was really difficult because I played most games that season in 2011 as a 19-year-old and thinking, my last game before I got injured was against Collingwood. They were top, we were second. We were the 2 clear best teams in the comp. I was 19. I kicked 5 goals. I got the 3 Brownlow votes. And the reason I say that is because the next week I done my ACL and didn't play a game for 4 years. So it can change pretty quickly, unfortunately. And so it certainly did for me. The boys went on, won the flag 3 weeks later against Collingwood. And so it's the most bittersweet feeling in the world. I think anyone who's played any sport knows this. When you're not playing in the game, you want them to win, but at the same time, you don't want them to win. You don't know how to feel. It is the weirdest feeling. And so... that was that. But for me, it was from there onwards, it was, all right, I'm going to get back for next year's premiership because we had the team to do it. So every time I did my ACL, I was flat about not playing, but I was flat about missing out again. That was the first thought that went through my mind. And so I had that go on all the way until 2015. And so then in my comeback game, we needed to beat Collingwood to actually make finals that year. And so we lost to Collingwood in my comeback game. And I remember the first couple of minutes walking off the ground, I was flat as because I couldn't play finals. I couldn't play in a premiership that year. And it was my physio come up to me and said, mate, I know you're thinking that right now, but you've actually got to realise what we've achieved right now. Like, it's pretty special. And that's when it sort of hit me that, okay, maybe there's a little bit more to winning a flag. But that's something that, it certainly burned for 10 years for me to actually play in a grand final and a premiership because I did miss out at such an early age.
Yeah, and you definitely made up for it there a couple of days after last year as well. Troy, obviously you come over to the Crows, similar to Dan, you were overseas and you just signed a 2-year deal at Carlton and find out that you're going to end up at the Adelaide Crows and away you went.
Yeah, it was a weird one. I just signed a 2-year deal, 2-year contract, actually a 3-year deal. No, I had a year left, but I signed a 2-year contract extension.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, sorry.
I know your story better than me.
I do remember. And yeah, so like that was that. Manager said at the end of the year we caught up. So yeah, enjoy your off season. Had a trip to Bali booked with a few schoolmates, and so went over there and I remember I wake up one
boys.
Yeah, those boys. I remember waking up one morning and I had a message from my manager and he said, "Hey mate, I need you to call me when you wake up regarding
Who's your manager?
Trade Week." This was Adam Ramanauskas at the time.
Rama.
So I've given him a call and he's like, I've had a couple of clubs contacted me. They're interested in a trade, and they were St Kilda, North, and Gold Coast.
Gold Coast would be nice moving up, I reckon.
Yeah, and look, I was very happy at Carlton. Obviously, just signed an extension and said, look, to be honest, like I'm not interested in a trade. I'm happy at Carlton. I said the only team I'd be interested in is Adelaide. Like that's it. And he goes, all right, no worries. Enjoy the rest of your holiday. So that was all fine, and then. I think we went out that night and woke up the next morning and have another message on my phone from Rama. Hey mate, I need you to call me about this Crows trade. And I'm pretty dusty and I'm looking at my phone and going, what's going on? Like, hold on, like what trade? So I've rang him and he's like, so Crows are interested in a trade. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, they've gotten wind of interest and they're interested in doing a trade. And Crows list manager at the time was Justin Reid, and he was our old manager before Rama. So we had a very good relationship with him. So he's like, I need you to sort of think about what you want to do over the next 6 hours or so, but I need an answer. It was short. Yeah, it was the last couple of days of trade period. So
while you're in Kuta.
Yeah.
This is our Bali trip, wasn't it?
No. This was an our Bali trip. This is a different one. Been on a few.
Sounds like there's another story.
Yeah.
Another story down
Memories are hazy.
Mr. Menzel. Mr.
And
Menzel.
then so I've hung up the phone and so what happens is if a rival club is interested in you, they're not actually allowed to contact you like personally. They're just not allowed to. Justin Reid has actually rang me, which he's not meant to do, and he said, "Hey mate, look."
He might be out of a job.
Yeah, well, he's actually gone. So, Carlton have offered a trade, and I was like, "Hold on, why?" He's like, "What? Don't you know?" And I was like, "No, like I thought you guys were interested in that." He's like, "No. Carlton rang us and offered a trade for you for Sam Kerridge and pick 28." He's like, "How do you not know about this?" So I was like I haven't heard anything about it. He's like, "Have you spoken to Rama?"
Question: who was pick 28? Do you know?
He got delisted in a couple of years. So.
Oh, okay.
I still say Adelaide won.
4 of the best. 4 of the best.
Kerridge would have played, 20 maybe?
Yeah, tagging games, so they don't count.
Yeah, Get him on the podcast next week.
Yeah.
Right? He's a forgotten hero.
Put him down
fuck Kerr. He cost us. He had that unbelievable last quarter against North Melbourne, which won Adelaide that game back in about
He's got to bring
2015, I think it was. Yeah,
Anyway.
when Petrenko kicked that goal.
I think he bagged that day, did he?
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Big 4.
Go on with the story, mate.
Yeah, anyway, so
Shut up,
Reedy's rang me and he said, "Hasn't Rama told you about it?" And I said, "No, he hasn't." Rama didn't even know about it. So what had actually happened is
Professional outfit.
Rama's gone back to Carlton.
This can go air, guys.
Yeah. Rama's gone back to Carlton and said, he's not interested in a trade. The only club he's interested in is Adelaide. So Carlton, without speaking to Rama or me, have approached the Crows and offered a trade for me. So, yeah, I pretty much had the day to think about it. I needed an answer because Crow said we need you on a plane to do a medical because we need to push this through if we're going to do it.
Carlton must have really wanted to keep you.
So it was.
Really
I was
regretting
actually,
that
I was
extra 2
actually,
years.
I was actually, just after they give me 2 years. So I was actually on the phone to Reedy at that time, and I said, look, if Carlton are going to offer a trade without contacting me, that's not what a club I want to be at. So he said, all right, no worries. I'll contact Carlton. I'll book you a flight home. You need to come home to Savo. So I was, I think, 2 days into a 10-day Bali trip and had to cut it a bit short and head straight back to Adelaide. And fast forward, I think 2-3 days, and I was an Adelaide Crow. So, yeah, it was pretty unexpected. It happened all in the space of 4 or 5 days. But, yeah.
There's 2 points. There's 2 points to this story as well. The first one, it's amazing that Troy actually spoke on the phone.
Oh, here he is.
Because Troy, anyone that knows Troy, he never
when you're not
answers
dribbling
his phone.
shit, I'm happy to take your call, mate.
You know,
In hindsight, he should have
should've
gone
let
his
it through.
normal path of the course, and he'd probably still be playing at Carlton. So that was a mistake to answer that call.
If that phone was broken like it's been for the last 4 years, you would have been okay.
And was that all true?
100%.
So I was with Justin Reid, so Carlton just hit him up.
100% true.
So it wasn't Reedy just making up something?
No, it was 100% true.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Part 2 of this story, Jordan D, good mate of the
the
show.
show.
You
Yeah,
know
big-
Jordan.
he's part of
Troy
the family.
knows Jordan. Yeah. I remember at the time, massive Crows fan. I remember at the time, obviously not knowing Troy ourselves or that, Beef Barker, another big fan of the show, that group of lads in our message were the most excited people that you'll ever find. That Troy Menzel was going to be the saviour at the Adelaide Footy Club. He was going to take Adelaide to their next flag, and you nearly did.
Didn't even play in the grand final.
You nearly did just in the sandful.
Didn't get picked in the grand final, but that's all right. They picked Andy Otten over me. Bloke played defence all year. That's fine.
I remember it like it was yesterday, and the boys were that pumped. And Troy, I think you're having 30 and kicking 3 in that time, weren't you? In the sandful.
I was
And
playing
couldn't-
at Carlton before I was at Adelaide.
No, when you couldn't get picked in that.
Oh
finals.
yeah. I was playing well. I was playing well.
Yeah, he had the man bun in though, so it might have been a no man.
Yeah,
bun
well,
policy.
Pikey actually did tell me one training session that I needed to cut my hair quite aggressively, to be honest. So.
Yeah.
And did you participate in any power stancing?
No, no game day power stancing.
game day power stance,
but there
yeah.
was some rehearsals going on for sure.
Did you actually rehearse at training?
We had we had sessions where I can't even remember what it was called. Resilient sessions. So we have resilient sessions, and it was the most bizarre thing. You'd be in the Crow shed, and they'd get you to line up. They get you line up like facing each other. So probably be 10 blokes this side, 10 blokes the other side, and what they'd get you to do is there'd be one bloke who was a leader, and you'd have to tell the blokes like when to step forward and what to yell at them, and you're screaming at these blokes in their face. And yeah, I got picked to be the leader of one of the groups, and like actually, it's like you're leading it's like you're doing the haka, but just like 100 times weirder.
Callum Sinclair would have been fine with that, wouldn't he?
right up his alley.
Something somewhat similar to that, but not the power stance.
That was the lamest thing we've ever seen.
Bizarre, absolutely bizarre.
Resilient sessions. I am running them at the moment. I might incorporate that into my sessions.
Yeah, bring it
but,
in.
You're going to touch on
This
the
wasn't
Crows
a-
camp,
this-
aren't you?
There's been some writing in between us in that thing. Like,
first of all-
you ask it.
Hang on, you've asked Riley Knight about this, haven't you, on the podcast? Surely you
I
go pretty
can't
deep
remember.
into.
Probably because it
I
would have been
can't
better
remember.
because he
I
actually
I think
went.
he wasn't allowed to say.
Yeah, so
I
you didn't
don't
delve
think
into
we're
it.
getting
Okay,
but
interesting.
You weren't there.
I weren't there. I have heard some things.
I'm sure, yeah, you would
But
have been right.
this wasn't the same people that did the power
Yes,
stance.
they're the
and
same
run-
people.
Yeah.
That's the same
Yeah.
people.
Collective Minds?
Collective Minds. That's
Yeah.
the one. Collective-
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
I mean,
psychiatrists without having a psychiatry degree.
Yeah, they've really pulled some strings there.
Yeah.
Interesting, nonetheless.
Yeah.
We'll leave the camp as you weren't there, but
Well, actually, on that,
Let's park that bus, Nida.
on that, there's so I don't know if Eddie Betts is actually releasing his autobiography, and apparently, supposedly,
Alex Yeoman
inside
will be
word
this too.
is it's going to actually bring up a lot of stuff from inside the camp. So for anyone listening, if you want to hear about that, get your hands on Eddie Betts' autobiography.
All good bookstores too.
big sponsor of the show. Great fan of the show as well. Thanks,
Books.
Eddie. He'll be listening in as always. I want to talk now about 2019 and how we met and all this come together, Cotton Media, everything else. So, Bray, obviously, I haven't told you this story yet, but 2019, we started Cotton Media, ended up doing some work down at the Central Districts Footy Club in their media department, running, helping them with some content and whatnot. And Troy did some stuff for us in the early days. He was the number one recruit at Central Districts.
Yeah,
At the time, there was no AFL footballers at Central Districts, so or former
so I had
AFL.
to do, did I?
So it was
Thanks,
it was
Benny
Troy.
Nason, there's Benny Nason there.
Benny was at the Eagles at that stage.
Yeah, he was back and forth.
He's journeyman. He's a
Troy,
journeyman.
Troy's just come off an AFL list, like thinking, he's come off an AFL list, played 1 year local, thinking, fucking, this is Troy Menzel, who's playing AFL footy, a high draft pick. How good's this? So we had to get him in for our early shows, and we had a gala night. They have their gala night every year, great night that they put on, and Troy had a few frothies, and we were actually talking about how to get Troy involved in the business and whatnot. He was our first big name that who had dealt with, and thought with his contacts what we could do. And Troy's actually come up and said, I'm studying journalism. I'd love to do some work with you.
What are you laughing at?
We'll get to why he's laughing. I'd love to do some work with you, and I'm fucking. I'm 15. I'm 15 vodka sodas deep and hard as a rock. Troy Menzel wants to be a part of our business. How fucking good's this? And I remember messaging
Let me
Bainey.
go on for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I remember messaging Bainey for straight away. And little did I know later on, but Troy goes, "Yep, I'm keen." I'm like, "Mate, yeah, fucking oath, like, let's catch up and let's catch up on Monday, have a coffee and have a chat about how it looks." And caught up with Troy on Monday, had a coffee, had a chat about how it looked. I spoke about being involved in the business and whatnot. Troy, as I mentioned, struggled to answer his phone since that day. He was good, but got Troy involved and thinking, fuck, how good's this? And obviously, end of 2019, Dan gets delisted from the Swans and comes back. And Troy, we had a good function up in the Barossa, which is on again this year, our BLG Grand Final. We had a big night on the company card, and then I didn't hear from Troy for 3 months. Trying to get a hold of him.
Big off season.
Yeah, trying to get a hold of him. And Dan's just come back, and I ran into Dan.
Stalked him.
I ran into Dan at Balaclava Cup.
From what I've heard, you had a big tag on
Big
him.
Robert Shirley.
Ryan Crowley.
Ryan Crowley, Robert Shirley.
That's what I've heard.
I ran into Dan at the Ballot Cup going for a piss.
Purposely?
And, this was 2 days before.
I think Cotton had a tent there, didn't you? Or?
Nah, that's a long story as well. But I've ended up Paro, and I was going there for 1 or 2 beers.
We should have one this year, actually, thinking of, but go on.
Yeah, but I've ran into Dan and talking to him about Troy. I run a business with Troy and that. This cunt, he has just turned his shoulder on me and given me nothing. Absolutely donuts. Didn't want to know me. I thought, okay, no worries. Anyway, then I ran into him a couple of months later.
May have pre-warned that you would chew his ear off as well.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't you. I was with Pete Valley.
Yeah, so I ran into Pete 2 days before, I think it was, and I spoke to Pete about, don't worry, you and Daniel get your ear chewed off by Matt Knight.
Yeah.
So Pete did say, this guy walking up now, he'll chew your ear off, all right, so we'll get you out of this, all right? And I was like, all right. So I did say hello, and I did, yep.
We got
How
a
you
photo.
going?
A very large
We got a photo, did we?
Yeah. I was absolutely
Sweating.
But we were quickly out of there, trying to get back to the next race.
Gave me donuts, which I understand at the races, like you're trying to put bets on and whatnot. So I'm a bit the same. But then I've actually I've gone to Jacob Templeton's gym to offer him $35,000 to come play for Gawler Central's footy club, and ran into Dan doing some sessions there. And I'd now probably not heard from Troy for 6 or 7 weeks, and said to Dan, I had a chat with Dan. I'm like, I haven't heard from your brother. And he goes, I'll text him, get onto him, rah, rah. And as it was, probably still gave me not much at that stage. And Dan ended up at Central's, and I ended up at Central's helping out pick up a few cones and whatnot on field and off field from the Central supporters as well. But
Have you been paid for that yet?
No, still having
Still money owing there.
touchy subject.
Go.
Can we get Chris on the podcast next week?
Touchy
It's in his
subject.
drawer, mate.
But,
It's in his top drawer.
yeah,
Might have to do the podcast of the TAB next week to get Grant.
Rattle the tins for Nida.
please. But so Dan's obviously then come to Centrals, and then we're thinking, like, obviously at that stage had Hetty and Cos involved as well, and thought, wouldn't it be good to get Dan on board? And the rest is history. And from there, Kyle Presbury, another good friend of the show, decided that after the COVID break, first session, non-contact session, that he would go back with the flight and stand on Dan's foot, putting Dan out for the whole 2020. And
Well, yeah, that's what it was eventually when I was diagnosed. Yes, I.
we want to go there.
Yeah, we'll go there. So non-contact session, Prez steps on my foot. I'm like, that actually hurt. Maybe it's just a bit of bruising or something. No worries. So we get through COVID. I continue training. Go see the physio/doctor. And they're like, we'll get you to have scans. Had scans, and they're like, yeah, look, nothing there. You're all good. Just a bit of bruising and whatnot. Just soldier on through. And so I did, 8 weeks of training where I was like, I've done 4 ACLs. Have I gotten soft? Like, what's going on here? Like, I seriously am in a lot of pain. Every time I kick the ball, it actually feels like my foot's exploding.
They breed him tough down the kennel. They breed him tough.
Well, I was questioning that. I was questioning where I was at. And so did all that, got through, was barely training, ended up playing round 1. Could not move. I was like, has it gone past me? Like, what's happened in a year? Seriously. And so ended up seeing the physio afterwards, and he's like, look, we'd better just get you to see a surgeon. Like, there's something not right here. Went and saw the surgeon. So I walked in there and he goes, how are you? And I said, yeah, not too bad. He goes, I can't even believe you're walking. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you have torn your Liz Frank. It is so bad that you should not be able to walk, let alone play a game of footy. And I was like, are you kidding? And he's like, no, like, how have you not been diagnosed with this? How you've actually managed to play a game of football, let alone walk, is actually incredible. And he said, there's a chance you might never play again. So I was, at this stage, I was like, what is going on?
Great doctors down at Central Districts.
So they do say invest in your people. It's important, and that's probably a reason why, to be honest. But I want to take it from there. I want to find out how many articles has he written for you since that initial consult.
Yeah, Troy. I probably didn't finish that part of the story. Troy was.
This isn't a wax session. We're already at the hour mark, mate. We can move on.
He did ask why I laughed before. I thought I'd better get back to it.
Troy come on as our chief journalist at Cotton Media in the July.
Huge signing.
A lot of drafts. There's a lot of drafts.
Chief journalist.
Mark Robertson of the Cotton.
In the January, he told me he wrote some articles on the Australian Open 2 weeks after the Australian Open.
All right, well, we're putting some mayo on that, aren't we?
But anyway, it was good for morale, and hey, you did a lot of shows. You've done a lot of shows.
Yeah, move on, mate.
Yeah, you've been good. You've been good. Lost where I was
do you
going with
wanna-
that.
before you go too far, are you gonna talk about how you guys got into the Eagles?
Well, that's what I was trying to go on with.
Oh,
the
good.
story.
I didn't want you to miss that part. 'Cause that's my favourite part.
No. Well, so
We'll let our manager handle this one, I reckon.
Well,
This guy,
Mr. 3%.
I'm interested for
I actually
you.
bumped into
Company rates 4%, but he'll take 3.
I actually bumped this guy at Elizabeth Shopping Centre. Do you remember this? We just got mates. He goes, fuck, mate, call me Ricky Nixon. I'm like, he's like,
Because he's nice?
he goes, you don't know what I'm dealing with. I'm stressed. And he was literally having some pancakes at lunchtime. So this is true. This is true. I literally walked
What, that I've had pancakes.
You're having pancakes and you're like, fuck, I'm
Where?
stressed.
I don't even like pancakes.
You do. Now this is true.
you're at.
This is true. And he's eating. He's like, fuck, I'm stressed. I've got Sheeds calling me. Like, I'm like, they want me to be this footy manager. Like, but I'm like, but I am, but I'm not. Like, you're just like.
There's definitely some mayo. There's definitely some mayo. It was a stressful time, but
Continue on.
so we got through 2020. Obviously, Jeff Andrews, great friend of the show, coached Centrals in 2020, and we all had a very strong relationship with him. I obviously had a really strong relationship with him. He gave me my start in footy as well, and
You just didn't get
Yeah,
paid.
he didn't get paid. Well, the funny thing was, the Thursday before he got sacked, he was talking to me about what his footy budget was going to be next year and what I'd get paid, and I was going to get a bit. And I was pumped. I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm getting some
Finally.
cash." This is on the Thursday. He was actually meant to do the Sandful show with me on the Monday. I spoke to him at 10 o'clock, and he was, "Yep, all good. I'll see you at the Alma at 3:30 to do the show." And 11:30, he rang me, goes, "Mate, can't do the show." I'm like, "What the fuck? What's happened?" He goes, "Just been sacked." I'm like,
With 2 years in the deal, 2 years left.
2 years.
2 years, 3 year deal, yeah. 2 years
And,
on the
and
deal.
they had to pay him out, didn't they?
They did,
And
yeah.
after they did a fundraising
Big
drive, didn't they, for their
Big
members?
Which-
$250,000 fundraiser.
Which Daniel might
a lot
have,
of past players involved in it.
which Daniel might have been a part of, and Cotton Media might have produced for free, because of the dire straits that we were all in that COVID crisis. But we'll move on from that.
But they found the money to get rid of him, pay him out.
I don't know what you're talking about. But through that period, we obviously did the grand final show with Sheeds.
Yep.
And I actually want these two to tell the story about how it's all gone down, because there's some contrasting in the story, but definitely between myself and Troy. There's some contrasting in the story, or what Troy's telling Birds anyway.
We love secondhand information. Can you please share?
Well,
Hold on. Who do you reckon's going to talk more crap about it, me or you?
But so anyway, had a
Off the cuff,
did some
though,
media-
this is
did some media with Sheeds, obviously the Eagles, and ran into Sheeds on the Thursday at a Carbine Club luncheon, which I'd been invited along to as a guest, prestigious group if you've ever been to one.
I haven't got the invite.
And it was a Sandful Grand Final, and ran into Sheeds again the next day, and having a bit of a chat, and chat got a little bit more serious, and said about would be looking I'm looking to maybe further my coaching. Is there any opportunity? Because I didn't know what was going to happen at Centrals, didn't know what was going on. And so he took my number, said, "Look, obviously got a busy week playing in a grand final." He said, "I'll give you a buzz in a week," and obviously messaged the boys, pretty excited, and said, or not excited, but I was a little bit excited about the opportunity to sit down and have a chat. And Dan sort of said, "Why don't you just throw our name forward?" And so I did, and
I don't reckon you could have done that quick enough.
Sheeds was actually walking out of the event.
I think that's how we got the conversation, to be honest.
I
He was
think so.
walking out, he goes,
I'm friends with the Menzies.
I'm their manager. 100%.
Well, the way the conversation started on the Thursday was we ran into each other having a piss. Was how the conversation started.
You followed him in there, didn't you?
This seems to be a recurring theme.
It just keeps
Typical
happening.
chats with Matt Knight.
I've had some good chats in there as well. He was walking out, and I said to him, would you be interested in having a chat, with the Menzies? And he was kind of like, what the fuck? I didn't really believed it, and thought I was sort of talking shit, and I was probably 10 stubbies deep at that stage.
Another recurring theme.
Yeah. Try to do my best work. And sort of true to his word, we went to the granny on the Sunday, and we were watching, and there was probably a little bit of support going that way as well. And true to his word, he called me on, I think, the Thursday. I met with him early the next week, and
Was he interested in you?
away from there.
Or was he interested in getting the Menzies?
Well, it depends which way you look at it.
He had a priority.
Yeah, he did.
It depends which way you look at him. Look, he could say the Menzies have won him another flag in 2021 with their efforts on field, especially in that grand final. But I think what he's got around the club in me and what I bring, I think I was definitely what he was after, and the boys were just an added bonus.
Yeah, the Menzies are
Steak
steak knives.
knives,
Yep,
yeah.
steak
Steak
knives.
knives, and which they are commonly referred to at the club, mainly by myself.
Yeah.
But
I'd
that's
like
my
to-
take on
yeah,
events. What's your take on events?
I'd like to just take us back a little bit.
To the truth.
Can we get back to, okay, so
Yeah, we can probably edit out that last 10 minutes, can't we?
This is going to be a long podcast because we haven't got to Ash yet, but I will bring her up. I will bring her up.
Yeah, that's about 5 more dot points here.
I will bring her up because she'll love a mention. And the point I'll make with this is, the first time I actually had any contact with Sheeds was I was at Monardo Zoo with Ash. And so I was
regular
on the phone to him.
place for a date, I hear.
Oh, great place. And so she was watching the drafts as they were doing the feeding in front of her, and I was on the phone to Sheeds, and that's my first memory from actually talking to him, and just weird because I remember thinking I'm obviously speaking to potentially my next coach, and so we obviously spoke about potentially what might happen, and there was no guarantees, no promises, no anything. It was, okay, I'm not sure what's happening. I'm sort of getting a feel right now because I'm also getting a feel at the current club we're at in terms of where they're heading and where things are at, and I wanted to get some answers on all that and get some clarity. I've been around footy long enough. I know it's more than just footy. It's a business. You got to look at everything. You got to look at your life holistically. So that was the initial one. But I want to take us back a little bit further I want to take us forward now to when we'd actually made our decision. So I had an interesting phone call with Matt Knight when we'd made our decision about who was going to go into the club and tell the club that we would not be at the club.
Send the sacrificial lamb forward. Send him forward.
I can't believe this has not come up before. So if you're still listening, an hour and 11 minutes into the podcast, this might be the best part of the podcast. You got to continue listening. So we had this conversation, and initially, without going into too much detail about Troy and I, we'd had the chat with the footy club, with both footy clubs, and we had then made a decision as to what we were going to do, and there was a lot of different details around it, but it was much more than just footy. It was everything going forward. We'd made the decision. Knight had made the decision before us.
3 weeks before.
3 weeks before. And he did say, credit to him, he did say, look, I'm going to go regardless of whether you stay or not. So that was that. You make your own decision. Once we've made the decision.
There might not have been an offer if they didn't go, but I'd said I was going.
You've got balls deep.
So that was that. So then we made the decision. I told him, I said, we're going to go in maybe tomorrow to the footy club. And
Thursday.
Thursday.
We spoke on the Tuesday.
We spoke on the Tuesday.
Yeah, Menzel family dinner on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Yep. So we made the decision on the Tuesday night, and I then spoke to you on the Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
Yep.
You're going in on the Thursday.
Yep. And so we were going in on Thursday, and I think you called me back on the Wednesday potentially. Am I incorrect?
No, I spoke to you on Tuesday night.
Yeah. And had you made this decision about when you were going to go in at this stage, or did you?
I think I called you back that night.
Yeah, you did. You called me. It was definitely a secondary call. The reason being is he called me back, and I'll never forget this. He said, and maybe I'll let you go with this if you want. And he said, hey, so you're going to go in on the Thursday. I think you were scheduled to go in on the Friday at this stage.
I had a meeting with him
on the Friday,
booked about other things. Yeah,
on the Friday.
Centrals. Yes.
Yeah. So he rang me and he said, hey, I've been having a think.
Training the Friday.
Yeah, I've been having a think, and if it's okay with you, I think I have to go in on the Wednesday and tell them. If you go in on the Thursday and tell them that you're leaving, and then I go in on the Friday and say I'm also leaving, I will not make it out there alive. I will be literally strung up and murdered and never seen again. And I thought,
death by the Ponderosa.
You're actually probably right. So he said, I have to go in before you.
You two were going in together. You had moral support. I was going in by myself as a nobody.
And so he was like, I cannot go in after you have told them. So he went in on the Wednesday. And how did that go?
So I went in on the Wednesday, and I had rang Jeff Brown, who's a great human.
Yeah, he's a great man, Jeff Brown.
I'd rang Jeff Brown and said, look, this is the opportunity. I'm going to go. I really want to come in. And I rang Chris Grant as well and spoke to him, and he couldn't make the meeting, so spoke to him on the phone and
speaks volumes.
Shows Chris's care factor about me.
Don't worry, mate.
He was definitely going to get paid.
Our meeting wasn't much longer. Don't worry.
So anyway, so I'd organised a meeting with Tomo, and I got on really well with Tomo. He doesn't talk to me now, but I got on really well with him. No hard feelings. Sometimes you got to make a decision best for yourself. And I had this meeting with Tomo, and I thought Jeff Brown had told him what was happening, and the meeting that I had with Tomo on the Friday, he thought that it was that. And I've sat in this meeting and I sat with Brad Brownie and Paul Thomas, two quite intimidating factors as people when you're sitting down and telling them some news. And Tomo didn't even give me a chance to speak.
You're getting nervous talking about it, aren't you?
I do. And Tomo started going on. It was about us doing some video work for the club and getting paid for it. And so Tomo started coming up with ways that we could make money, sponsor all that out of the podcast, out of doing video for the club and whatever. And so Tomo started speaking about it, and Brownie was sort of sitting there smiling at me, and I kind of sat there, didn't know what to say. And
because he'd made his mind up at this stage that he was going. So
I
Tomo
was
did
going.
not know. Brownie knew.
Brownie knew. Tomo didn't know. I was coming to
Yeah.
tell Tomo. I was coming to do the right thing, do it face to face. Because I had that respect for Tomo and the footy club as well. I wanted to do it face to face, even though I was a nobody. I was a cone boy. Yeah, and he's gone with his spiel, and then I've gone, oh, look, mate, that's not what I've come in to speak about. I'm coming in to let you know that I've got an opportunity with the Woodville West Torrens Footy Club, and think it's the best way for me to move forward with my coaching career and what I want to do. And meeting didn't go much longer than that. There was a question about the boys, and I was like, obviously,
You played dumb, didn't you?
Well, I found out the Tuesday night.
Wasn't
and
one of the direct comments, as long as you don't take the men's or boys with you.
There was a comment like that. Yes.
And that was the only thing he
I
did.
said,
You felt quite threatened at this stage, didn't you?
there was that.
How
comment,
red were you?
and red is probably red as I'm now. Thought, I don't know what the boys are doing. Haven't made their mind up yet.
Meanwhile, you're outside of the room, you're this big hot shot fucking footy manager, and you went in there, you crumbled.
Actual.
I don't know what they're doing. You have to ring their manager. Right?
The real manager.
I don't talk to the boys that much. But yeah, so anyway, I told them, and went in early, and then I think they boys knew what was coming on the Thursday. I picked the boys up from their meeting on the Thursday, met them at Woodville, dropped them at Woodville, and sat at the Woodville pub and had a pint and a bet while the boys signed their contract with the Eagles.
Beautiful.
Anything I've left out there?
I'm glad we got into that in terms of the timing with how that worked. Because I remember when you rang me and you said, I have to go in first. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Mate,
I'm an order boy, mate.
I will not make it out alive if I go in on the Friday after you. And I was like, that's a fair point.
You'd be
to
a weak
make,
target, isn't it?
actually.
You'd be a weak target.
Yeah, an
That's
easy
target,
target.
yeah.
You wouldn't have gone in.
No, he wouldn't have.
You wouldn't have gone in.
Imagine berating the water boy.
Oh,
Essentially,
exactly.
that's what they were doing.
The Magnet Boy.
The Magnet Boy, yeah.
And
Sorry,
the worst thing with that is Dan talked about his first contact with Sheeds. I've obviously spoken to Sheeds a lot through this time. Sheeds rang Troy, and Sheeds rang me back, goes, Troy Menzel ever answer his phone? He's not having
It's a reoccurring theme.
That actually happened. You didn't answer Sheeds' call the first time, and I had to text you.
Some of us actually work during the day, Chook.
Probably was working.
We're not all at the zoo.
with the missus. And let's get on to the missus, because, Dan, you have found a very lovely girl in Ash, and she'll love a mention on the podcast. So talk to us about Ash and her love of footy.
Yeah, no, she's a massive fan of footy. She has been her whole life. She gets out to some of the games. She loves the social side of the footy.
she ever?
So
She's made it well known that she's Dan Menzel's girlfriend.
she refers to herself as the glue. She brings everyone together. So she doesn't. She's not a big fan of footy. She has never
She went
has
to
been.
an AFL game at Adelaide Oval for the first
First
time
time.
4 weeks ago.
4 weeks ago, and we took her
On
out.
socials.
Yeah, we took her out.
She wasn't thrilled about it either.
No, she actually was. She'd never been to an AFL game before, and so we took her out to the actual enclosure because we were in one of the nice bars there.
Yep. Phil Riding's bar.
Phil Riding's bar. So
nice. Yeah.
behind the glass, so we actually went outside to experience the atmosphere, and she looked around, and then when there was an Adelaide goal kick, she was like, "Oh my god, like." Have you played in a crowd like as big as this? And I was like, I've played in a crowd twice or 3 times the size of this. And I said, it is pretty impressive. I said, wait till I'll take you to the MCG one day when there's 90,000 people there. That's incredible. So she was pretty blown away with that, to be honest. She's an Adelaide girl. She's obviously went to Henley High, so obviously Bray would know of that school. He doesn't know of King's Baptist, but
No, there are plenty of the girls there.
plenty of the girls. Shout out to the girls there at Henley High.
Your wife is upstairs.
My wife is upstairs sleeping. My pregnant wife is sleeping upstairs.
But you did.
But
You
yes.
actually told us Ash used to throw the
some
best
of the
parties.
some of the great parties. I think it was Ash's 16th birthday. I reckon it was 16. I still remember the day. I reckon there's about 100, 150 people there. There's people hanging off the roof. There was all sorts of fucking things going on there. People blind, drunk, just out there. So, but nah, Ash
Strongbows deep.
Few Strongbows deep.
Do you know what's great about this is
Red Bears. I think we're
Red
in there.
Bears. What is great about this, she actually said that everyone who went to Henley High used to go and get vodka cruisers, the off vodka cruisers from just down the road, $5 a carton or something they were. So
Very classy
guava cruisers, yes. So,
Yeah.
but what I was going to say, what is great about this is I'm never allowed to listen to podcasts in the car when we're driving together because she hates podcasts, can't stand it. But I have a feeling that this might be
this
the
one.
first one
Yeah.
that we actually crack her.
You're going to have to go for a long drive.
Yeah,
have to let
yeah,
her-
you're right.
It's a banana one back. I think.
She'll have to get through the first hour 10 of absolute rubbish. But yeah, it's been a great podcast.
Great
bro.
podcast. I think we're running out of tape space. I think.
We are. But first podcast, two boys have done together as well. First, how much media have you done together over your time? Wouldn't be much.
Nothing, really.
Isn't it
We did
exclusive?
we did the podcast men's well.
Oh, yeah, but no, like
you've
just-
been guests on a podcast.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
First time.
Isn't it exclusive?
This is an exclusive.
Yeah, probably
we can
is.
mark it down as
mark it as-
exclusive.
yep.
Almost as exclusive as when a Sunday Footy show, I think it was late last year, showed some footage of Troy Menzel. They showed some footage, and Bill Brownless got up and said, "Oh, that's Dan Menzel." So very famous name still in footy. Getting a mention, got the Menzels round the wrong way, but
We
still
probably
getting a
didn't
mention.
need that one, but
He's been waiting all day to say that. He's been waiting an hour and 20 for that. And he brings out that.
what a way to
I was
finish.
just thinking about the Sunday Footy show, but you do get mixed up quite a bit. Don't you?
I've actually, we look alike. We obviously look like brothers, but since being at Woodville, I've never thought we'd look that much alike. But I reckon the bloke on the gate, you'd think when you drive
special
in,
members on the gate.
when you drive in, the bloke who's running the gate, you'd think, you get 2 shots a game. Well, you should get the second one right. The first one's already been through. And I'm always the first to the game. And he's had, over the last 2 years, he's probably had 25 shots at it. He hasn't got it right once. he's every time Daniel, how are you? Troy, mate. Sorry, mate. I'll get you next time. He hasn't got me yet.
Yeah, you drive two very different cars as well.
And I'm always there first. You would think you'd learn.
You would think, wouldn't you? But
big fan, he is big fan.
Big show.
yeah, no, it still happens a bit. Timmy at the Eagles.
Timmy, yeah.
Timmy, a good guy at the
Yeah.
Eagles. He come up to me literally the other day, and he doesn't actually say it to me. He says as a Sox to
Yes.
someone else. He goes, "Is that Daniel or Troy?"
But you can hear him.
I heard him, and I said to him, "I said Troy did his ACL last week, Timmy. For God's sake, he had surgery the other day. It's not that hard to work that out, mate."
Yeah,
Oh, he was distraught.
go back.
Yeah.
But do you know who's someone who wouldn't get his mixed up? Sharon Drabs.
Sharon
Drabs.
No,
Shazza.
she's all over it.
She'd be all
Oh,
over it.
Shazza.
Shazza.
Oh, we're going full names here.
Yeah,
are we?
yeah.
Okay, we're really delving
I saw
in.
her
Huge
actually.
fan. She's a huge fan of the show, by the way.
Massive fan, Shazza. We'll get this on the podcast.
NLS Digital.
She's-
DC.
How's some of the comments on the
love it.
page? It's so
Under
good.
16, she's got the digital live pass. She's watching.
Mate, incredible story. She gets the bus for like 2 hours to every game.
Yeah, Naracoorte.
From
That's
Naracoorte.
No, you're kidding.
Yep,
Actually.
every week.
I thought she must have lived on Oval Terrace. I'm like,
No, she's the most dedicated supporter. And me and Shazza, we share a birthday, 10th of July.
Beautiful.
There's
What a
one
day.
for you.
She had a
Boys,
cake the other week, didn't you?
hey,
She had a cake the other week.
yeah,
didn't
we
you?
did. Very good. Boys, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. Before you go, one more question each, quick answer. Dan, you've been very good, obviously come from the Geelong dress-up days for Mad Monday, but who's been the best operator on a Mad Monday that you've played with, Dan?
I'd probably say Matthew Scarlett's always been very good with a lot of different ones. It came as KB, Kevin Bartlett, 1 year and actually shaved his head down the middle. Hannibal Lecter, I reckon he came as another one. One of my favourite ones of all time, and it is... yeah, it's one that's
funny
a
when
little
you're
bit
winning,
close.
isn't it?
It is a little bit close to home, but Mitch Duncan and Jimmy Bartell dressed up as Chicken Nixon and the St Kilda school.
Yes,
girl.
I do remember that one. Yeah.
That was very well thought out.
My good mate, Chicken.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
We're
Yeah, no,
friends of the show.
Yeah.
actual. So no, there's been some good ones along the way. Geelong do it as well as any club, absolutely in the AFL.
Troy?
Mine, for me, the one that sticks out is he goes all out and dress up, and he's always the one that's running it, and he runs a really good Mad Monday.
Right on, mate.
Brock McLean.
Brock McLean.
Brock McLean. One of the best.
There's a throwback. Forgotten hero.
He's a very forgotten hero.
Absolutely. I thought Sammy Rowland was pretty good last year, Mad Monday. Coming as the coronavirus skeptic.
Yep.
Sorry, not bad.
Insert cricket noise.
Was he?
Press the button.
He was all right. Sorry, I was just thinking about a couple of Mad Monday stories. So I got a little bit sidetracked there.
I think Angus Paul was best on last year.
He come in his jocks, didn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, there's been some good Mad Mondays, some good
There
stories too. But
I think there's been some stories that could break the internet tonight, bro.
I think so. This is, we actually might hit over 300 listeners this one.
Maybe. Exclusive Menzel boys, Dan and Troy, first podcast together. Great to have them on the show, and thank you to everyone for tuning in each and every week. We got to thank our sponsors, Beachworm Capital, Nathan Shanks, Big Shanksy councilman down there at the Gawler Council. Great to have him on board, and Doc Brewing and Co. Make sure you get online and buy a nice fresh 6-pack of brew from them. Look forward to next episode, Bray. We got some big names lined up that I'm looking forward to getting stuck into, but till then, hopefully you're back up in the twos playing footy, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you again.
I can't wait, mate. It's going to be hard to top this one.